That's good.
Yeah. Discharge.
Not a bad thing. Oh, God. Yeah, that'd be done. Anymore. Oh, yeah.
Well, I guess we will call to order the meeting of the Cascade City Council. Are we started?
Oh, yeah, we're live.
All right, for March 28th, 2016 at 6 p.m. Roll call.
Hush,
Here.
Carney,
Here.
Napper,
Here.
Raker,
Here.
Stainer.
Here. All right. We'll have entertain a motion to approve the agenda as it is before you.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Approved by Hush, seconded by Stainer. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Same sign. Opposed? None? Approved? All right. At this time, we will entertain any speakers from the floor for anything pertaining to what may not be on the agenda. Seeing none, we will move on to the consent agenda, which has in it just the minutes from the last meeting.
Oh, if I can, at the last meeting, you guys had questioned what that, amount to Brothers Market was for the EMS. And that was for like an employee appreciation type thing, like what we hold for our employees.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. All right. Public hearing for the sale of the city-owned property. Entertain a motion to go into public hearing.
I'll make a motion, we go go out of regular session into public hearing.
I'll second that.
Motion and seconded. Stainer and Raker. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? All right. Anybody that wants to speak to this or address it? Dave, do you have any comments regarding it?
No, actually, I just like to
Just hear what's got to be said. Okay?
really have to get it cleaned up.
Any questions?
I'll make a motion, we go out of public hearing then.
Okay. If there's no comment from public, then we will.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. All right, now, regarding resolution number 26-16, approving the disposal of city-owned property to James Weber.
I'd make a motion, we approve resolution number 26-16.
Second.
Motioned and seconded by Napper.
We need to have buttons here.
I beat you.
The gong.
Have we incurred any legal fees at this point?
No.
Okay. Will we, other than recording?
Just to clean the area up, because I did all this and
Okay.
Any further discussion? Okay, roll call vote.
Carney,
Aye.
Napper,
Aye.
Raker,
Aye.
Stainer,
Aye.
Hush.
Aye.
Okay. It's approved. You bet.
Thank you.
Now, one quick question for you. Who do I work through to get this taken care of? And I'll just give you a call in the morning.
Okay,
and
sure, that'd be
we'll
fine.
get her taken care of.
Now, there is one thing. Dimmer can't work on yours till he's done with the trail.
It's not in the fine print.
More than one crew,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think so.
Thanks, everybody.
Yep.
Thanks, Dave. Have a good night.
You too, take care.
All right, moving on. First Avenue Trail construction. You got anything?
Steve will.
Steve gonna take care of this discussion?
Well, for those of you that have driven up and down the road, you see that the project has started. We got notification early last week that they intended to start, which kind of brought to forefront these next two topics. I know we've had discussions in the past as far as how to handle construction, who's going to be doing what on the project. Previously, the thought would be that the construction would be occurring concurrently with the wastewater treatment plant, and we'd have an inspector in town or someone that could bounce back and forth. It's not necessarily a bad thing. They want to start early, so it's obvious we have to have somebody in town. So I came down to talk to Deanna as to how to best go forth with this, and we kind of had a little history lesson of the history of this project. We started going through the list that the DOT provides to us, the information they need, and the documentation that they need to have done so that you can get your full grant amount at the end. It's pretty extensive, and it became pretty obvious to both of us relatively quickly that city staff wouldn't be able to handle it in its entirety. So we've decided that we'll handle the on-site stuff. We're gonna work with Deanna and Phil and see how much administrative paperwork and whatnot they can handle with us kind of being at the ready to fulfill that. What we don't want to have happen is have Deanna assuming we're taking care of something and she assume the other, and make sure there's no box misses getting checked and put your grant at jeopardy. So we wanted to talk tonight with you a little bit about how to handle this. What we're doing right now is we do have a time and materials contract in place with you for the wastewater treatment plant, and we're down here on that. We'll bill you accordingly for that. And I'm going to, if you don't mind, Mayor, it's going to kind of blend together with the next item as well.
That's fine
But
with
it
me.
really led to a discussion of city engineering duties and some of the things that we have ongoing in town, that you guys have ongoing in town. And whether there was merits to having a contract in place to handle those type of things, or an arrangement in place at the very least. And so, you know, if instructed otherwise, we can get a contract in front of you specifically for the trail and for that work. It probably would be cleaner, but it doesn't need to be. We're not gonna leave you hanging. We have the contract in place. John's been in town the last couple days. And so we'll make sure we're doing that. But again, given the sheer volume of what you have going on, what you're probably going to have going on in the next few years, and just the nature of the potential the community has, I thought I'd bring this up again. It's something I know Adam broached with the previous mayor, and just basically the sheer volume again of things that are here. We serve as a city engineer for a number of communities in various capacities, and what does that mean? In some places, I have a name tag at the table, and I sit at the council tables. It's that formal. We have an arrangement with Asbury where one of my engineers actually sits in City Hall for part of a day every week. And that's the time when council people could come talk to him, developers know he's there, that type of thing. And then we have some that are just very informal, that it's just, you're the city engineer. When stuff comes up, we call you and you take care of that. So it means something different for everybody all the time. How we handle the invoicing, the nature of the relationship, that type of thing is very specific also to each community. But the benefit I have seen, and I've been doing this for well over 20 years, is that especially communities that have potential, and there's a lot of them out there that don't. You're not one of them. You're going to change, and certainly in the rest of our lifetime. As things come up and you need help, and it certainly benefits having someone that can look at all of the pieces holistically and help give you advice to that effect. The opposite of that is really just looking at the project that you tell me to look at, and not necessarily thinking about how that goes with everything else. And again, I prefer not to do it that way, but if that's the nature of the relationship, you treat it that way. But I've done this long enough to know that having a good partnership, a good trusting working relationship where you can work together, again, whether it's me or someone else, I'd hope it would be me. But if you have someone looking out for the community as a whole and all the things going on and what's going to go on in the next 20 years too, because a lot of the decisions you make today really have long-reaching impacts. And having someone know how those all play together, I think is to your benefit. And bringing this full circle back to the trail here, okay, well, we had kind of a plan in place, and, well, those plans didn't work out just because of the timing of how everything is, and it would be very simple and easy if Deanna was able to call me and say, hey, Steve, get down here, you know, they're starting, and we just move forward. You know, along those lines also, how long have you been here now? Probably 15 months? You know, there's a number of things that just, can you come and look at this? Those are the real thing, where the real value lies, is can you come look at this and tell us? You know, my family would tell you it's unfortunate, but I go to about 9-10 council meetings a month. And a lot of the things I see are things you guys don't have to bang your heads against the wall, because I've already seen it. I've already seen somebody else deal with it. Those are the things I could come look at and say, hey, this is how Community X dealt with it. This is how Community Y dealt with it. Don't do it that way, you know. So it's just the benefit of those type of things is where you see the value. So again, I wanted to bring it before you. I don't know that I've brought it before you as a council before. We've had some informal conversations through the years, as has Adam, and thought we'd kind of kick off that conversation here tonight a little bit.
So with something like that, we would develop an agreement, time and material, if you would.
Yeah.
If Phil and Deanna want your opinion on a street improvement, or the council does,
That's one arrangement, Ed. I mean, and it's probably the most common. Again, whatever you could think of is possible to do. I don't have any right now, but in the past I've had some where it said, hey, we want 100 hours out of you. And it's kind of a retainer type thing. 100 hours a year. I'll guarantee we'll give you 100 hours a year. You know, then we negotiated a rate for that first 100 hours. After that, it became something different on a per project basis. Just another example. But what really works best for me is the time and material thing, because what I like to try to do for you guys, if it's something just to look at, it's probably going to be me. If it's something that takes a little bit of time, I'd like to be able to tell you it's going to be this type of engineer who might not be me, or this, you know, a structural that's certainly not me, and those rates and whatnot are all over the board. But I don't want to give you an expensive rate when someone cheap will do, and I don't want to send somebody inexperienced when you need a little bit higher level of experience.
So these plans or these cities that you have a relationship with, formal, contractual type thing, could you draw something up for Cascade?
I could, yep.
I mean, I think in order to make a decision for Cascade, then the council would need the information on what we're making it on. I mean,
at least a place to start.
in the long run, if Cascade could gain some knowledge by having this contract and have it as inexpensive as possible by having this contract, then it would be a benefit for us.
That's my
And
opinion.
MSA too.
It would, yeah.
But this idea of, well, you know, we're making a call, and is that, you know, I mean, I've called lawyers at 10 minutes a crack, you know, and you see it later, you know.
Right.
So with a relationship, we may not have some of that.
Well, this is, again, specific to me probably, perhaps, but it takes me a certain amount of time to even generate a bill. So it needs to be worth me generating a bill. But to your point, with that relationship really avoids a lot of those little things. It's just because you know it's a partnership.
See, I can only speak from when I was mayor and was on the council in the past. We always had TKIP, and Ryan through TKIP took care of the city of Cascade. And there was some very distinct advantages with having TKIP or your own engineer, not necessarily TKIP.
Oh.
We're not, but your own engineering, for the fact there was hundreds of times Randy just would call, hey, can you come down and look at this? They would come down right away, take a look at it. A lot of times, if it was something that didn't take them any time at all, verbatim stuff, There was no charge for that kind of stuff. He could make a phone call to Ryan at any time, and if there wasn't, where he didn't have to spend 3 or 4 days on it, Ryan could look at something and say, okay, this is how your city lays. I think this is something you should look at. That type of thing, which, again, there was no cost to that kind of stuff. What we do now is bounce around here, there, project, whatever. See, that's a reason why the laws are set the way they are with engineering, that you don't have to bid let engineering, because of the fact that engineering is a lot like your law firms. You want to begin a relationship with them so they understand what situation every city's in, because everything's different.
And
And those were,
if something big came up, that would have another conversation.
well, that's just it. I mean, it goes both ways. We as a council sit back and say, okay, how do we know we're getting these fair rates? Let's be honest. It's in his advantage more than our advantage out of a contract, because we can say, okay, we don't feel that that contract is becoming fair to the city of Cascade. And we would have in those clauses in those contracts stating, okay, we don't feel this contract is fair for the city by what we are seeing from this project to this project. We'll readjust the contract or pull the contract. I mean, I would really believe it would be in his advantage to work harder to keep us happy. But that's just my opinion.
That'd be easy.
Steve, how many cities do you have contracts with
Formal
in
contracts
eastern Iowa here?
in eastern Iowa.
Yeah.
They take a lot of different forms, but I would say in eastern Iowa, probably 30. I think we serve as a city engineer for maybe 90 across the state.
Okay. My question is, I mean, could we get the different forms? I mean, some time material, some.
Yeah, I could
And
present.
and some
maybe-
type of reference.
Maybe
you know,
the 3 most common type of arrangements for you guys,
Something
and
for
know
us
that
to-
everything's customizable.
And I guess the name of the city,
Sure.
so we can kind of use them as references.
Sure.
To see what
Sure.
works for those
Yep.
people.
I think that's a great idea, Bill. If we
Yeah, I
could get
think that's good.
some kind of contract with maybe not numbers in it, but some kind of idea for us to have something to start.
Well, I think you kind of want to know for a city this size what it takes for the amount of engineering.
Right.
Whether you're saying it's 100 hours in a year or something, you want to have kind of a basis.
Right.
Because once we get the wastewater, if we can look ahead 2 years,
Yeah.
once we got the water thing done, we get the wastewater treatment thing, then the town should
Oh,
get
yeah.
down to a more of a,
It'll never be over.
well, no,
But
I
you
know
have-
it'll
you
never
have-
be
you have
over,
two
but
different paths. You've got your big projects that you're dealing
Yeah.
with,
Yeah,
and then
just
you've
your
got your
normal.
day-to-day
Yeah.
growth
Streets,
opportunities,
sidewalk.
those type of things that
yeah,
are coming
street
about.
improvements, yeah.
And you guys, in my opinion, are very similar to Farley, and I've been the city engineer out there since '98 or something like that, and that's evolved to the point that it's completely informal. It started out with what we called a master services agreement that really laid out all the terms and conditions, and now it's just, there's so much history there. It's like, here's what we need, I go do it, build them if it turns into something more, otherwise it's just part of the deal, and I'm very comfortable and confident that relationship's continuing, so it's a trusting partnership. And then, Asbury's another close one that's very different. That's the one where we actually hold some office hours there. And mainly because they're ever changing, like you guys are too. I mean, they're maybe a decade or half a generation ahead of you, but I could see something similar, maybe not quite to that scale, but you're faced with a lot of potential. And if those things materialize, there's a lot of things you need to be able to respond to.
And any kind of agreement that we would put together is gonna be we hope it'll be a long-term thing, but it's
Right.
something we can adjust as time goes on.
Right.
From both sides.
Well, the one thing I'll tell you is this, and this is, again, my personal philosophy. If you don't want to work with me, why the heck would I want to continue to be under contract with you? Because it's going to be a miserable experience. And same way the other way. So it's there to kind of spell out what the expectations are. But I like to have an out for both of us, a termination clause, because things do change. Now, I don't have one right now, but I've had councils that says we know the council's gonna change, but we need you to be constant so that you get like a 4-year term. Again, I get that, but do I really wanna be working for a community that doesn't want me there, that would prefer to have somebody else? Cause they're just gonna make me look bad. It's gonna be
Yeah.
bad relationship, so.
So going back to the First Avenue Trail project, do we have to, are you gonna help with that?
Oh, we are, and
Yeah.
we're here. I guess I'm more telling you this, we have a contract in place, we're here.
Yeah.
But if at the end of the treatment plant, and I don't know if any of you will still be here, or if you'll all be here, but if we go and say, hey, we're gonna be $25,000 over on that, let's not forget that we're charging some time before that thing's even started here, because it is a time and materials contract. It does allow us to do some other things there and some other latitude there.
I'd like to see 2 or 3 examples and to make it worth your while that we would consider doing
Sure.
that, but we want to see what we're gonna do.
Right.
And-
Well, that'd be fair.
And I like the idea of, references
Yeah.
that
Sure.
we can do some homework on.
Big ones or little ones.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good.
I just thought it was a good idea, because we know they're gonna be in town for the next 2 years anyway.
Oh,
Right.
for
You know.
more.
Yeah,
I mean, by the time you
Oh, yeah,
finish
get it up and going and.
more.
so,
So how's that work? As far as you'd have just a general services type contract that would cover any and all things, but then the difference between different projects. If you could just explain that a little bit
So,
more for me, Steve.
You know, that's a fair
Appreciate it.
question, and there isn't a good answer for it, because again, everything's negotiable. Again, the most common situation I'm in is it's called a master services agreement. It's actually the same contract terms of every contract that you've signed. What that does is allows, and you guys decide from Deanna's standpoint, how much to authorize her, that she could, under that master services agreement, authorize us to do work. You know, and then we have these little, it's just kind of a little memorialization that says, this is the project, this is the expectation, so we have that. What's typical there is it says, yeah, only up to projects or estimates of $15,000 or $20,000. Anything beyond that, we need to treat as a standalone project. It comes before all of you guys and gets treated like anything else. That's probably the most common. That way, she has a limit that she doesn't have to go before the council. Maybe it's $5,000. There's a limit in the contract that says, hey, anything bigger than this, we really want to talk about it individually. And so it allows you to do the day-to-day stuff real easy, allows you to do the medium-sized stuff. You guys have that control, and then the large stuff we treat as every other project is. It's standalone, what's the scope, what's the dollar? And so you kind of think of it as 3 tiers of projects.
Okay. And then when you create like monthly statements or and invoices then, and then itemize what projects were being worked on?
That's, again, typical, but there's very customizable. Our invoices are, but right now, what it has, project name, who worked on it, the number of hours. Some communities want like a project update associated with it. Others just send me the bill, you know. But I like to have some level of detail so that you guys, again, can hold me accountable.
Right.
But too much becomes overwhelming too. So kind of finding the information you want, the right amount of it, is part of that relationship building, and get that established right up front.
Okay.
Okay.
Seem fair?
Yeah, give us
Thank you.
something to look at.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Steve. All right, well, I'd handled both of those agenda items, so we will move on to the pool project and the open house that we have. Did you want to put any comments to this at all, Deanna, from what the results were?
you have it before you. I mean, the consensus is basically not to spend money on the repairs, but to build a new pool, and from the comments, you know, do like a 3-year plan and put more money away and say in 3 years or 5 years, we're gonna build a new pool. But to spend the money making the repairs is just, you know, pretty much
Was
a
there
waste.
30-some people that showed up?
About 30 people, and then we got about 25 comment cards returned. So, and I was expecting a little better turnout, but the weather was cold and rainy and windy, and so I'm sure that, you know, didn't help the turnout, but.
I kind of agree with that, as far as, fixing the pool with a little bit of this or a little bit of that. That option 4, which was a new vessel moved towards the Farley Road with a walk-in entry. We have the $700,000 now. My thought was, and that didn't address the concession stand or the dressing rooms or anything.
Right.
Right.
But if we went, and I love the idea of a 3-year plan, I'm thinking, could we have some construction each year? In other words, or do we just wait 3 years and then do it all, or
Well, I
whatever?
take between now and 3 to 5 years, even some of the people, time I was there, people were talking about, what if we move things around a little,
Different
give the
design.
community, there's a lot more than 30 people that are interested in this.
Yeah.
If we put
Yeah.
it off 3 to 5 years, but as this council make a commitment to really, at budget time next year, really socking some money away.
Well, and to get to what we really want the pool to look like in 3 to 5 years.
To get
And-
input,
That's a
And
key
to,
right
to
there.
me,
yes.
Yeah.
So everybody in the community, because
And
even in
you'd
5
have,
years.
you'd have more time for everybody to give input.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
You're gonna
Because
get
even-
some down the road.
I know
Even
that-
in 3 to 5 years, it's gonna take
Yeah.
a bond issue,
Yeah.
right?
I
So
know
we're-
that
we
the-
want people to be in agreement with this thing if we just, well, not if, we're making a commitment, we will go, but it might be 5 years. And that'll give a lot of time for people to give input.
But one of the things that could be done while the pool continues to operate is you could build a new bathhouse straight north of the current bathhouse, right over the baby pool that's not being used now. That would let the bathhouse operate, and it would also, when the time came, give them room or more room for the zero entry. The reason we're moving the whole pool towards Farley Road is the bathhouse is in the way. The 50-year-old bathhouse is in the way. But, from a standpoint of what can we do in the next, 3 to 5, I have no trouble with that, but I think there should be some, what if we decided in 5 years we're gonna have a new pool? Well, what if we built a new bathhouse year 1, year 2 with the $700,000 we had? And then when the new pool comes, you wouldn't necessarily have to move the vessel 38 feet to the Farley Road so you can have your zero entry. The zero entry would be right where the bath pool is now.
Well, I think if we were to wait to 3 to 5, it'd be a new bathhouse and everything.
Well, I'm saying you could have the new bathhouse within a
Yeah.
year. We have the money for a new bathhouse.
Well, I think no matter what, you want a comprehensive plan and know.
Yes.
And I think
What you're gonna
doing a
put
little
in.
bit by little bit each year is gonna be
Part,
more
part of the thing we really gotta
Costly.
remember is
costly,
whatever,
yeah, less efficient.
whatever real number we have today to do anything, that real number is going to be bigger. The interest rate's gonna be higher. So for instance, the
Costs.
cost of the bathhouse built this year over the, over the old wading pool would be the cheapest because it'd be done, we have the money, and we're not borrowing anything. Now, we can
Well-
wait 5 years and build a new bathhouse, but it's gonna cost more.
Yeah.
And
What-
it was Mr. Burbach's opinion that it would be easier for the city to fund the vessel, the pool itself, and get donations for all the
The other things.
accessories,
Yeah.
including the bathhouse, not just slides or whatever. But that was his professional opinion. Agree with it or not.
Yeah, I don't,
But then also his thought was on the referendum, which I don't know unless you got those
Yeah,
details
yeah.
as far as the timing and doing that and taking it to a vote to the members of the community. That, that would all have to kind of be planned out too.
Yeah.
And we
Because
gotta
there's only
remember,
certain
we
times.
had a group of people that spent a bunch of time working on this.
I think that's the first thing
You
that
know,
needs
there's
to
a
be
stack
done
of,
is-
there's a stack of stuff someplace, and a group of people spent a bunch of time.
And access that information.
And start with that and say,
Yeah.
community, what do you want? Is this close to what you want? At least start selling that part
Yeah.
of it.
Because they did a lot of legwork putting that together, and
Because
that's.
we don't have the buy-in from the
Yeah.
public, we'll never pass the bond issue, and then we've got nothing.
but if we don't, I still think like chipping away at this, if we're gonna have a new bathhouse, we're gonna have a new pool in 5 years. Let's say we agree on that. We're gonna have a new pool in 5 years, which will mean by then a new bathhouse. We can build that bathhouse today and use it for 4 years. with the money we have.
I-
And we're gonna do it anyway.
But yeah, that's the finding out where, how much money we're gonna take in to get for a vote, for a referendum to
Yep.
get passed and stuff.
And if,
To
you know, the
know
money,
who's gonna pay for what.
the
as
money
far as-
spent on the bathhouse wouldn't have to be in the referendum.
No.
Cause it's paid for.